Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. I'm your host S.M. Hali presenting another episode of Defense and Diplomacy. Pakistan has reopened the ground lines of communication, also commonly known as the NATO supply route to Afghanistan through Pakistan. Last week, in fact on Sunday, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Hina Rabbani Khar, met her US counterpart, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and her Afghan counterpart. And Hillary Rodham Clinton thanked Hina Rabbani Khar for reopening of the route, and so did the Afghan counterpart. What is the scenario following that? We need to discuss that today in our program, but we also need to look at the rehabilitation of Afghanistan, because it affects not only Afghanistan but the region around it, and more seriously Pakistan itself. And of course we need to see what has Pakistan got to do to make sure that it regains its peace and stability. But to do that, let me introduce the participants in our show today. We have with us Major Raja Mujtaba, who is a renowned scholar as well as a very frequent participant in my shows. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And we have with us the illustrious Ambassador Tariq Usman Haider, who is not only an expert on security but also national policy. Welcome, sir. Let's set the ball rolling, sir. Following the reopening of the NATO supply route, or the GLOC as it's commonly known as, how do you see the scenario unfolding, sir?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that when we blocked the routes in November after the attack on our soldiers, it was the right decision. You have to be firm when you have to be firm. But when we opened it, I think also we had assessed the pros and cons, and it was also a difficult but the right decision. So I think now we have to, the two parameters are that on the one side the Americans are a superpower, there's a limit to how much you can antagonize or fight with them or should want to do so. The other thing is areas where you're very firm, that you will move on certain issues yourself at your own pace. We have to maintain our firmness on that.
But if you notice that during the meeting between Hina Rabbani Khar and her US counterpart, not only Hillary Rodham Clinton thanked Hina, but at the same time she said that Pakistan has got to do a lot more, like wrapping up the terror organizations, so-called terror organizations, as well as carry out operations in North Waziristan. How do you see that, sir?
I think basically here we ourselves have always said that we will do our best to end terrorism within Pakistan or being sent into Pakistan, which is sometimes the case, but we will do it at our own pace. In our relations with the Americans for the last 50, 60 years, there have always been extremely difficult issues where we have not been seeing eye to eye. So I don't think that is anything new.
Right, and perhaps it is in our own interest also, but we'll come to that later. Let me solicit the opinion from the military point of view. How do you see it, Major Mujtaba?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would reject the mantra of do more for Pakistan. I think Pakistan has done more than enough that it could do, and the casualties that we have suffered is far more and greater than what the entire ISAF has suffered in Afghanistan. Not only in the human terms, but our economic losses have been far too greater also. And in allowing these NATO supplies now, after blocking in November last year, that was a good decision, that was a bold decision, and taken in that context. And I think when it came to reopening had to be done. I don't say it was not to be done, it had to be done. But we should have got something in writing from the American president, or at least from the Secretary of State, that we apologize to the government of Pakistan and to the people of Pakistan. There has been no such apology, you know. So that has become a sore point with the people at large.
So if you permit, last week we discussed the NATO supply route reopening or resumption, but in that we carried out a post-mortem. So let's go beyond that, because those semantics, let's not get stuck into them. We have to move on, sir.
No, you see, because the supplies that they are going to pour into Afghanistan, naturally the bulk is going to go through of Pakistan. And Pakistan has to be careful, and that, as the Pakistan Army has said, that they will monitor, they will scan every container that is going, because they do not want any lethal or offensive weapon to go into Afghanistan that can be tomorrow used against Pakistan. And the Pakistan commitment to this war on terror has been very faulty to begin with, because Pakistan never had an exit strategy, how it will wind up and how it will come out of it. And this war has spread so much that people in the area, both in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Central Asia and in the region, they are fed up with this sort of thing that is going on. They want some peace, they want some more harmony where they can move in, move out freely like a peaceful region, you know.
And as far as the reopening or resumption of the GLOC is concerned, please also remember that we have allowed this because this will enable the NATO and ISAF allies to take away their heavy equipment from the Pakistani route.
That is what I want to say, because now this reopening should be more focused on the withdrawal phase of from Afghanistan, not of re-equipping or repumping and more, you know. Now it should be the reverse movement starting from Afghanistan, and that should be allowed as much as possible and as smoothly as possible, so that the Americans and the other NATO forces, they can get out of Afghanistan and leave the area in peace, you know.
And perhaps that's why Pakistan has been magnanimous in not revising the transit fees. But so let's, I mean, he's mentioned the exit strategy, but we need to focus on the rehabilitation also of Afghanistan, because its rehabilitation affects Pakistan directly. And this particular conference in Tokyo, if you recall, sir, it was mentioned that $60 billion have been provided to Afghanistan in the last 10 years. And in this particular conference, an additional $16 billion have been pledged. So do you think it will be enough? And there have been reports of some kind of corruption or that money being squandered. That's none of our business. But we would like to see a stable Afghanistan.
Well, I think the two issues here is one, of course, that so far the aid poured into Afghanistan, whatever the reason, hasn't really made an impact, and especially in the south and southeast, which is the Pakhtun area. The second thing is, of course, if they can reverse this and it does better, so much the better for us and, of course, Afghanistan mainly, but for us. But the essential question here is not so much the rehabilitation of Afghanistan, but as Major Mushtaba said, what is our exit strategy? And I believe that our exit strategy, or let's say our strategy to Afghanistan, that is for us the most important thing, and that is that we treat it as a country, as we say we do, and we shouldn't treat it as a dependency, as some people say we should. And if we do that, our relations with Afghanistan will be much better. And what we really want is an Afghanistan which is not hostile to Pakistan. How they progress, what they do, is their business.
Obviously, sir, because you see, Pakistan should recognize that Afghanistan is not only a sovereign state, but we have a stake in its stability, because whatever happens in Afghanistan, it trickles down into Pakistan. Major Mushtaba was talking about the war on terror and its impact on Pakistan, and of course everybody agrees that Pakistan has sacrificed more than 40,000 people, has lost nearly $1 billion in the last 10 years.
Maybe $9 billion in that case.
I'm sorry.
The effect on our economy is about $9 billion.
About $9 billion, that's the accepted figure. But you see, so we got to concentrate and try and help out our brothers, because it's in our own interest.
Here, if you permit me, I'd like to add something. Rehabilitation of Afghanistan is very essential, but it cannot be done in isolation. At the same time, the rehabilitation of the Pakistan bordering areas has to be done in a similar manner, so that there is a balance up on both the sides. If they do not do it, then it's going to cause you problems later on.
But Major Mushtaba, you were with me in a program a couple of weeks back. If you remember, we were talking about TAPI.
Yes.
And TAPI, that is the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, cannot become operational unless there is peace in Afghanistan.
Essential, essential. But at the same time, it has to be supplemented by development and peace in our border regions also, you know, because they are the ones who are getting the most hitting. The drones hit them, everything hits them. The people, they have become little more adverse to it, you know.
They're agitated, but yes. You see, there is a perception that perhaps India is getting more than its due share in the rehabilitation and whatnot. We have no competition with India. Of course, we have to be suspicious in case India tries to use Afghanistan against us, but let's not go on that track. No. The other aspect I want to point out is that the Afghan ambassador in Pakistan has invited Pakistan to participate in the rehabilitation. What's your opinion, sir?
That's a positive thing. Pakistan Pakistan must participate in their rehabilitation because, and this will give Pakistan much more needed confidence and much more needed role that it has to play, which it genuinely deserves. So Pakistan must be given its full role in the rehabilitation of Afghanistan.
Would you like to add something to it, sir, before I switch
think
gears?
The point here is, as you said, we're not in competition with India here or with any other country because there are other much bigger donors than India in Afghanistan. We ourselves have a program of $300–400 million of relief or reconstruction for Afghanistan, which has been ongoing for many years. But I think the thing we shouldn't forget is that Afghanistan and Pakistan are so closely tied together. For instance, if you look at people who are coming for medical care, maybe the very rich people go to Dubai or America, there's less rich people, they might even go to Delhi. But the common Afghan, within 100–200 kilometers of the border, they all come to Peshawar and places in Pakistan for treatment. The very poorest get free treatment in our government hospitals. The others go to private hospitals, which are not so expensive. So I think, we don't have to worry so much about Afghanistan.
No, we should not. But one aspect, sir, which you see some people tend to forget is that for nearly 22 years, that is following the 1979 invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union, Pakistan hosted something like 3 to 5 million Afghan refugees. And if you just take the cost, let's say bare minimum $5 per day, that comes to billions of US dollars, and Pakistan has sacrificed. It's not that it's payback time, but we need to have better relations.
We also want to get the refugees back as well.
Absolutely. And we would like them to be resettled in their home country. So let me come to the other aspects. That Pakistan is, we started off with the Pak-US relations, and you mentioned that we have had difficult time and all, but in this particular crisis and for the last 7 months, we were nearly at the lowest ebb of our relationship. I'm glad it's on the path of recovery, but the major says that we should do away with the mantra of do more. We don't want to be dictated. But there is a lot Pakistan needs to do to make sure that our relationship stays intact, and more important, peace returns to the region. What's your opinion, sir?
Well, I think you're absolutely right there, and I agree with the Major that we can't accept all the time the Americans saying do more, do more. I mean, there's a lot they have to do. They haven't been able to resolve Afghanistan. How can they expect us to do that? And we've had the blowback from the occupation of Afghanistan and Iraq also in Pakistan. But I think the fundamental issue for us is that we have to put our house in order. If we can put our house in order, then we should be able to do something for the border areas ourselves, not that the Americans are going to give us an ROZs, Reconstruction Opportunity Zone. We have to tackle the terrorists ourselves. When we take control of all our areas, then we have a much firmer ground to say there should be no drone attacks, there should not be this, which are wrong in any case. But that is very important. Having control of all your own territory, your own sovereignty, and dealing with terrorism, and of course political stability, economic revival. Once we get into that path, then I think many of the problems we have, or let's say the Americans or others, they will melt away.
I'll just come back to you to seek a few more details, because you have said a lot of things and these are all very cogent suggestions. But sir, the point is that Pakistan has got a very bad reputation. Unfortunately, it was the Western media. They say that where there is a spark or there is smoke, there is a fire. I don't want to go on that route, but you see, we have to, as the ambassador rightly pointed, we have to set our house in order. What should we do?
You see, there are no two opinions about setting our own house in order. That is imperative, and that is the bottom line. We have to do it. What we have to do, that we must do. But what I was referring to was basically that once you are bringing the Afghanistan into a certain level of development, and immediately you cross the line and you see a sudden fall, that will not speak or augur well with the establishment of good relations, because, and more so since that region of our bordering region, they have cross relations, with the local people. They come and they go, and they have got intermarriages going on. So that has something which has got to be, we have to do that.
Let's look at it beyond the borders, sir. In Bonn, in Chicago, the Russians as well as the Chinese, they pointed out that the countries which are adjoining Afghanistan, which are its immediate neighbors, they should play a greater role. Okay, that's an opinion. my personal request from you would be, what is your own opinion that yes, Pakistan should maintain its good relations with the USA, but why shouldn't it also look towards its more closer neighbors like Russia, for example? Mr. Putin is due here in September. Like Chinese are time-tested friends.
I think if you recall my previous discussions with you in your programs over here, I have been all along advocating and promoting that we should have more look near sort of an approach. And where we should look towards Russia, we should look more towards China and Central Asia, Iran, you know, because the countries that are contiguous to Afghanistan, they have much more at stake than countries which are further away.
At a distance.
Okay. So anything happening in Afghanistan would directly affect Pakistan, it would affect Iran, it would affect Central Asia, it will also affect China. See? And so these are the countries. Now Putin is coming in September. So it is the first ever visit by a Russian president to Pakistan, and I see that visit with a lot of hope. But at the same time, we've got to be very, very cautious about that visit also, because sometimes when your expectations go very high and the things do not materialize at that level, and then people tend to get disappointed. But we've got to be looking at it more realistically. Pakistan should not be expecting when Putin is coming that Putin will do anything for Pakistan at the cost of India. No, it will not. So we have to be focusing more on bilateral relations with India, with Russia, one-to-one, not at the cost of any other country in the region, you know. So that is something which we have to be looking, and Russia has a role to play in this region. It is a neighboring country in a manner. The Central Asia is still a Russian bloc, so it gets the leverage that way, and Russia will have a role, and we must accommodate that role, whatever it is, so that it becomes beneficial for the region as a whole.
Let me seek the diplomatic angle on this. So how do you see this reaching out to our neighbors and the countries which are in close proximity? And one thing we would like to make clear, which you said very clearly earlier, that we are not competing with India. We are looking at our own interests.
I think the thing to the overall overarching thing is that we are faced with three issues. One is there is India, which always tries to put pressure on us. The other side, there is the turmoil in Afghanistan, which has all these negative consequences to us. Thirdly is the pressure from the United States. And what I think the role of our foreign policy is to find space for us. And I think to that extent we have not done so badly. We've tried to resume the dialogue with India, create some space with India, though they keep on creating difficulties every here and there, every now and then. With Afghanistan, as I said, we should focus on our main economic interests at the TAPI pipeline going in. And with the Americans also, with this resumption of the ground line of communication, and we never stopped the air communication line anyhow, we have again created some space. What we need is space for Pakistan to develop. When Pakistan develops, I think Afghanistan should of course develop, but the point is that when Pakistan develops, this will also have a spillover effect on Afghanistan for stability. I think that's also something. The reverse side of the coin, I would like to, is also an important matter.
It is true, but you see, sir, on one hand, President Karzai of Afghanistan calls Pakistan and Afghanistan conjoined twins and says that one cannot survive with the other. On the other hand, even at Tokyo, he said that the terror organizations outside Afghanistan must be wrapped up, which was probably an oblique reference to Pakistan. And the same was echoed by Hillary Rodham Clinton. So what should we do to dispel this kind of an impression, sir?
Well, there are two things. I mean, the thing is, one thing which I've been proposing for many years is, and which was a proposal of the government many years ago in 2005, we should fence the border. Or the border with India is fenced, the border by India, the border with Kashmir is fenced by the Indians, the border with Iran has started fencing it. TICA, it's 2,565 kilometers, we should make a start. There are only 50 kilometers of fence in the entire 2,560 kilometers. We should do that. I think that should be a national priority. And then, it's not just that there might be cross-border infiltration from here, as the Afghans say. We're getting a lot of cross-border infiltration from there, both in Dir and other places, also destabilizing attempts launched by the Indians into Balochistan and Fatah. So we have to tackle this as best we can.
This
Point taken, yes.
One thing. The insurgency which is being supported and given active support by the people in Balochistan, especially, it's all coming from Afghanistan, you know. The Indian consulates, the Indian presence, the American presence, even the Israeli presence over there, all these are coming from that
Sir,
side.
but one solution which the ambassador gave is fencing it. But if you recall, it has been proposed in the past, and it was Mr. Karzai himself who has opposed it tooth and nail. Perhaps he is cognizant of the fact that the Durand line runs in such a manner that at places it even divides individual houses. So half the family is this.
Rooms.
So how do we resolve it? I mean, because we are facing the problem, we are facing the brunt of it. So how do we resolve it?
But we don't have to wait, we don't have to wait for Afghanistan to say yes to us. This is our territory, you fence it as much as you can. And slowly these anomalies which are there will be put aside in that case.
And the other case, sir, is since you contribute to the media and you have your own think tank, how should we dispel the impression abroad? Because they consider us part of the problem, not part of the solution.
That is very essential, and I always say that we must be more proactive than reactive. We have not developed any strategy, we have not developed any theme that how do we counter or how do we project the image of Pakistan abroad, you know. This is something very essential where our media as a, I would say in totality, is lacking and lacking very badly. So the media will function only what the directives it gets from the government. The government has to be more aggressive, the government has to be more proactive, the government has to make the media policies as per its foreign policies.
But sir, you are an opinion builder, the ambassador is an opinion builder, and I would like to pretend I am one too. We don't have to wait for government directives, we need to take our own initiatives.
No, we do, but you know, the bigger media houses, the mainstream media houses, because what we do is at a very small level, at the low level, you know. The bigger media houses, they all have gone, I don't know, for some reason or the other, they've developed their own motives and interests, you know. So they have started to follow that. So this is something which we must re-inculcate in our media houses, that your first responsibility is to project Pakistan in its positive manner. So these are the big media houses, they have more responsibility to shoulder. What we do at our level, that is, okay, we are making some progress, but it is not to the tune and to the level that it is required. The canvas is much broader.
Your final comments on what is the way forward for Pakistan, sir?
I think the image of Pakistan, we can do a lot more abroad, but basically the image depends on what's happening on the ground. So as the Major Saab and yourself and I had said at the beginning, you have to put your own house in order, you have to tackle terrorism, you have to improve the economy, you need more political stability. Once that is there, then your image will improve.
Your final comments, sir.
I would, bottom line will come that we must concentrate on the economy of Pakistan. That is imperative. After having done that, even when we are talking, the engaging talks with India, if you see look at China, China did not engage any of its neighbors till such point that it improved its economic strength. Once your economy is in order, your economic conditions have been strengthened, then other people would listen to you with respect. Right now, when you talk to somebody, you're talking from a weak point, from a weak stand, the people would not really listen to you. So I would rather go that we must go all out, improve the economy of the country at any cost.
Point taken. So viewers, with that, we come to the end of this discussion. Both our participants made very, very wise and sagacious remarks and suggestions, not only for how to get about the rehabilitation of Afghanistan, but more importantly, how to set the house in order in Pakistan itself. And they have concluded that we need to make sure, first of all, one very important suggestion came regarding the fencing of the Pak-Afghan border or the Durand line. The other is that we need to set our economy on the correct path so that we build ourselves to such a position of a strength that others look upon us not only with interest, but our words carry weight. Then only we will be able to be heard in the Committee of Nations. But one very important point that came out is that we need to dispel the negative image that Pakistan has managed to acquire for itself, or its detractors have forced it upon us. I would like to quote from Abraham Lincoln, who says, "Character is like a tree, reputation is its shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. So we have to build ourselves like our character and make sure that no mudslinging or no machinations can harm the image or the sovereignty of Pakistan. I would like to thank you, Major Raja Mujtaba, and I'd like to thank you, Ambassador Tariq Usman Haider, for your various comments. And viewers, keep watching us. Hope to see you next week, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.